I clutched the thin ultrasound sheet, my fingertips turning pale from the pressure. The tiny dot on the image, less than a centimeter in size, was like a miraculous seed taking root in my barren expectations. I took out my phone, my first instinct to call Ju Shushan. Tomorrow is our wedding day, the culmination of this 7-year-long journey of love, finally set to conclude under the city's watchful eyes. I thought, this must be the best wedding gift heaven could give us. The moment the call connected, before I could even utter the words Shushan, my ears were met with the clamor of voices and a solemn background sound. Mr. Ju Shushan, do you take Miss Lin Jiao to be your wife, for richer or poorer, in sickness and in health? I froze in place, as if a bucket of ice water had been poured over my head, the chills shooting straight up my spine to the crown of my head. That was the voice from the civil registry's vow platform. I frantically flagged down a taxi, and when I gave the address, my voice trembled uncontrollably. The driver glanced back at me, his eyes filled with pity, because I was still wearing the half-dried-on toast dress, that glaring red, like a silent mockery. When I stumbled and pushed open the door of the Civil Affairs Bureau's service hall, I saw Ju Shushan holding Lin Jiao's hand as they walked out. Ju Shushan, the rumored cold and aloof, unapproachable head of the Ju family in the business world, was now slightly bowing his head, gazing with a tenderness I had never seen before at the delicate woman in his arms. Each of them held a marriage certificate, blazing red under the midday sun, its glare stinging my eyes. Ju Shushan, I heard my own voice, hoarse, broken, and filled with a despairing stillness. Ju Shushan's footsteps abruptly halted. He looked up at me, and in his usually calm, deep eyes, a flicker of astonishment quickly passed. But then, it returned to that almost cruel composure. Lin Jiao shrank back into his embrace like a startled rabbit, her voice as faint as a wisp of smoke. Tingwen, I'm sorry, I didn't mean to, shut up. I stared fixedly at Ju Shushan, walking toward him step by step, crumpling the sweat-dampened prenatal checkup slip into a ball and hiding it in my palm. Ju Shushan, who do you plan to have as the bride at tomorrow's wedding? Ju Shushan released his hold on Lin Jiao and took half a step forward, positioning himself protectively in front of her, an instinctive gesture of defense. He looked at me, his tone unnervingly calm. Tingwen, Jiao Jiao's condition is unstable. Since returning to the country, she's been tormented by rumors and gossip. She just wants a title to feel secure. Apart from the marriage certificate, I can give you everything else, all the rights, status, and wealth that come with being Mrs. Ju, everything else. I laughed bitterly, tears welling up in my eyes but forced back. If the title goes to someone else, what does that make me? The highest class mistress kept by the great CEO Ju. Don't speak so harshly. Ju Shushan's brows furrowed slightly, a sign of his growing impatience. Tomorrow's wedding will proceed as scheduled. Lin Jiao won't be there. As long as you don't make a scene, you will still be the only Mrs. Ju in the eyes of the public. This is just a transaction where both parties get what they need. Be more sensible, sensible. I repeated the word, the last trace of warmth in my heart completely extinguished. For 7 years, I stood by him as he built his business from scratch, accompanied him to social events until I bled from my stomach, and stayed up late with him reconciling accounts until my eyes were bloodshot. I thought my sensibility was his confidence, but I never imagined it would become the chip he used to hurt me without restraint. Slap, a crisp slap echoed through the hall, my palm stung from the impact, and Ju Shushan's face was turned to the side, 5 finger marks quickly appearing on his fair cheek. Newlyweds passing by stopped to point and whisper. Lin Jiao cried out and rushed forward. Shushan, are you okay? Tingwen, how could you hit someone? I hit exactly who I meant to, I sneered, tearing the crumpled prenatal checkup report to shreds right in front of him. The scraps fluttered onto his face before falling listlessly to the ground. Ju Shushan, you think you can give everything, but there are some things in this world you'll never deserve to have again. Shen Tingwen, where are you going? Ju Shushan sensed my determination and reached out to grab my wrist. I abruptly shook him off, a sense of disgust welling up from deep within. Without looking back, I strode out of the hall and headed straight into a nearby private maternity hospital. It was a private hospital under the Ju family's umbrella. Ju Shushan, along with Lin Jiao, chased after me. He was likely afraid I would cause an even bigger scandal, his face dark and terrifying. Shen Tingwen, stop making a scene here. Come back with me. He grabbed me at the end of the hallway. I stopped walking and pointed to the sign above my head, operating room, Ju Shushan. Didn't you say you could give me everything except a title? I looked at him calmly, my eyes as empty as a stagnant pond. I was going to tell you earlier that I'm pregnant, but now, I don't want it anymore. I don't care for this child, and I find your compensation even more repulsive. Ju Shushan's body trembled violently, and a crack finally appeared on his perpetually icy face, a crack named terror. Shen Tingwen, how dare you? He roared, his voice trembling with a fear he himself hadn't noticed. What wouldn't I dare? I shook off his hand, pushed open the door to the operating room, and resolutely walked in under the nurse's astonished gaze. Lin Jiao cried out hypocritically behind me, while Ju Shushan tried to rush in but was stopped by security. I lay on the cold hospital bed, staring at the harsh light above. This was just the beginning, Ju Shushan. The humiliation you've given me, I will return it to you inch by inch. Skinning and tearing the sinews outside the door, Shen's mother's phone was ringing frantically. Without even answering, I knew she must have received some benefit from Ju Shushan and was here to persuade me to prioritize the bigger picture. I directly turned off my phone and threw it into the trash can. At this moment, Shen Tingwen died. The cold, shadowless lamp in the operating room made my eyes dizzy. Through a heavy door, I could still hear Ju Shushan's uncontrollable roars. Shen Tingwen, if you dare touch that child, I will never forgive you in this lifetime. Lying on the operating table, I stared at the ceiling, a mocking curve tugging at the corner of my mouth. Not forgive. He actually had the nerve to say he wouldn't forgive. I didn't actually go through with the induced labor. I bribed Dr. Lin, whom I was familiar with, to give me a sedative injection and then wheeled me out through the back door's ambulance lane. I wasn't crazy enough to use my own body and my child's life to take revenge on a worthless man, but I had to make Ju Shushan believe that I had personally destroyed the only bond that once connected us. I wanted him to spend the rest of his life, whenever he closed his eyes, seeing that unborn child dissolve into a pool of blood, the knife he had handed to me himself that night. The rain poured down in torrents. I dragged my exhausted body back to the hillside villa that was once called home. Ju Shushan hadn't returned yet, probably off comforting the frightened Lin Jiao. I surveyed the opulence that filled the room. On the wall hung the photos he had taken himself during our trip to the Seine, and in the cabinet sat the complete set of bone china I had carefully chosen for him. Once, I thought this place was my safe haven, but now it seems nothing more than a gilded cage. I moved swiftly, taking not a single piece of clothing or jewelry with me. I opened the safe and retrieved the thick stack of contracts. These were the 30% of the original shares held in my name during the early days of Ju Group. Over the years, Ju Shushan had repeatedly tried to persuade me to transfer them to the group as collateral, but I had never relented. I dialed a long unused number. Professor Liu, this is Shen Tingwen. On the other end of the line was Liu Ji, a top venture capital magnate in the country and my mentor from business school. He had once lamented with deep regret that I had wasted my business talent for the sake of love. Have you come to your senses? Liu Ji's voice remained cool and sharp. I want to sell 30% of Ju Group's shares, and I need all the legal procedures completed tonight. I've already chosen the buyer, Zhao Group, Ju Group's biggest rival. Tomorrow night, with this move, Ju Shushan's capital chain will instantly break. He'll go mad. Whether he goes mad or not, what does it have to do with me? I sneered that night, amidst the roaring thunder. I signed all the equity transfer agreements. The Zhao Group had long been eyeing the Ju Group covetously, and these 30% shares were the ticket they had been dreaming of. At 3 a.m, I cleared out all traces of my life from the house: toothbrushes, water cups, even a single strand of my hair that had fallen on the carpet. I meticulously cleaned it all up. As I stepped out the door, I ran straight into Ju Shushan, who was reeking of alcohol. As he returned, he was soaked through, his tie askew, and his eyes, which always held an air of confidence, were now bloodshot. Seeing me carrying a small leather suitcase, he rushed forward and grabbed my shoulders. Shen Tingwen, where's the child? Did you really? His voice was hoarse, trembling with a near-breaking intensity. I looked up, my gaze as calm as if I were staring at something lifeless, dead, turned into a pool of blood and washed down the drain. Ju Shushan, congratulations, you're free, you lunatic. He suddenly tightened his grip, his strength so great it felt as if he were about to crush my bones. Let go. I looked at him calmly. Ju Shushan, you should thank me. If I hadn't killed that child, what would I have told him when he grew up and asked me why his father registered a marriage with another woman the day before our wedding? Should I have told him that his father was a coward who could only give money but never a proper status? Shen Tingwen, he roared, raising his hand. I lifted my face, not even blinking. Go ahead, after this slap, everything between us will truly be settled. His hand froze in mid-air, trembling violently before finally falling limp. Go, he said, turning his back to me, his silhouette exuding a loneliness I had never seen before. Tomorrow, I'll have someone send you the compensation agreement. Those billions in assets should be enough for you to squander for a lifetime. Keep it for you and Lin Jiao to buy coffins. I pushed him aside and strode into the curtain of rain. The sound of shattering glass came from behind. He had smashed the $1 million porcelain photo vase of us in the entranceway. Early the next morning, the whole city was in an uproar. The highly anticipated Jushan Century wedding was cancelled. In its place came two major pieces of news. First, Ju Shushan, the president of Ju Group, officially announced that he had already registered his marriage with Lin Jiao, the heiress of the Lin family. Second, the Ju Group has undergone a mysterious equity purge, with its biggest competitor, the Jiao Group, injecting capital to become the second-largest shareholder. Ju Shushan's absolute controlling stake is on the verge of collapse. By this time, I was already seated on a private jet bound for London. Countless WeChat messages from Mother Shen popped up on my phone. Shen Tingwen, have you lost your mind? Those are Ju Group shares, selling them to the Jiao family. How are your brother and I supposed to navigate the social circle from now on? Ju Shushan said as long as you're willing to come back and apologize, he can let bygones be bygones regarding the shares. Get your ass back here now. I let out a cold laugh, took out the SIM card, snapped it in half, and tossed it into the champagne glass the flight attendant handed me. Watching the bubbles slowly swallow that metal chip, I felt a sense of freedom like never before. 3 years is more than enough time for a woman to completely transform herself. In the rainy London night, I declined all social engagements, burying myself in tedious financial models and Manda cases. Luji was right, I am a born hunter. I had only retracted my clause for Ju Shushan. During this time, I occasionally heard news from back home. It was said that to stabilize the stock price, Ju Shushan had to hold his wedding with Lin Jiao ahead of schedule. However, on the wedding day, Lin Jiao fainted on stage due to excessive nervousness, becoming a laughingstock in high society circles. It was said that over the past 3 years, Ju Shushan had become a workaholic, his methods growing increasingly ruthless. Yet, the villa he lived in had become a forbidden zone. No women were allowed to enter, including Lin Jiao. It is said that he has been sending people to look for me. I closed my laptop and gazed at the shimmering lights of the Thames outside the window. Ju Shushan, what do you want from me? Is it to reminisce about the child who died, or to reclaim the empire? You lost, it doesn't matter, we will meet again soon. But at that time, I was no longer your Shen Tingwen. I was Eve, about to devour your entire empire. 3 years later in Haicheng, the cold air conditioning breeze from the airport VIP channel felt just like the impression Ju Shushan gave. I walked in 10-centimeter red-soled high heels, a black suit jacket casually draped over my shoulders, and sunglasses covering most of my face. Behind me followed 4 capable men and women, my merger and acquisition team. Eve, the people from Ju Group are already waiting outside. Chief Assistant Shun Man reminded in a low voice. Let them wait, I said coldly, glancing at my wristwatch. 3 years ago, I fled this place in disgrace, like a discarded woman with her dignity shattered. 3 years later, I returned as Eve, a top global investment bank executive and acquisition expert, holding the power to decide the fate of the Ju family. With a multi-billion-dollar investment. Stepping out of the passageway, I spotted Ju Shushan at a glance. He had changed. The once aloof and proud aura was now layered with an unshakable sense of hostility and heaviness. He had grown noticeably thinner, and the custom-made dark grey suit he wore exuded a desolate, unapproachable air. The moment our eyes met, I clearly saw Ju Shushan's fingers gripping the wheelchair armrests tighten abruptly, a lingering effect from 3 years ago, when he lost control of his car in a rainstorm while frantically searching for me. I heard his right leg still has a slight limp to this day. Tingwen, in his always icy eyes, There was a rare flicker of something almost humble, a hint of joy. His voice was hoarse, as if scraped by sandpaper. I stopped walking, elegantly removed my sunglasses, and swept my gaze over his face without a ripple of emotion, as if looking at a withered tree by the roadside. President Ju, that's the wrong name. I am the head of this joint investigation team. You may call me Eve, or MS, Shun. Ju Shushan's face instantly turned deathly pale, his deep eyes fixed intently on me, trying to find any trace of a flaw on my face. But he was destined to be disappointed. Now, my heart is so barren that not even hatred can grow. It's good that you're back. He ignored my indifference and tried to step forward, only to be politely but firmly stopped by my bodyguard. Mr. Ju, there's no need for reminiscing. At 2 p.m. this afternoon, in the top-floor conference room of Ju Corporation headquarters, I hope your financial statements can withstand scrutiny as well as you can. I left these words behind and strode away with my entourage at 2 in the afternoon, Ju Group headquarters. This was the place where I had delivered countless lunchboxes filled with love, where every security guard and receptionist had affectionately called me the boss's wife. Now, I sat in the conference room that symbolized the highest authority of the Ju Group, with Ju Shushan occupying the seat at the head of the table. He kept staring at me, his gaze thick with regret and a certain obsessive longing. Let's begin, I said, opening the file, my tone strictly businesslike. Ju Shushan's financial director began his report with trepidation. In recent years, the Ju Group had aggressively expanded to fill the gap left by my withdrawal of investment, resulting in an alarming debt ratio. Stop, I tapped the table, producing a crisp sound. The provision ratio for overseas bad debts in the Ju Group's financial statements last year is clearly problematic. Mr. Ju, do you think I can't understand these reports, or do you believe I would turn a blind eye to such serious compliance risks because of our past relationship? The meeting room fell so silent you could hear a pin drop. Ju Shushan's special assistant, Song Yuan, was sweating profusely in anxiety. Miss Shun, this part of it, call me Eve, I interrupted coldly. I reject Ju Corporation's acquisition proposal. Not only do I reject it, but I will also recommend that headquarters initiate a short-selling investigation. Shen Tingwen, Ju Shushan finally couldn't sit still any longer. He abruptly pushed himself up from the table, his right leg's impairment causing him to sway slightly, but he paid it no mind, his eyes bloodshot. Do you have to be this ruthless? For the past 3 years, I've regretted it every single day. I kept Lin Jiao locked away in a villa in the suburbs. I never touched her, and I never even married her. The marriage certificate back then was fake. She forged it. I just wanted to make you jealous, to make you care about me a little more. Listening to this belated explanation, I actually felt like laughing. 3 years ago, when he watched me walk into the operating room, when he saw me isolated and helpless, why didn't he say the certificate was fake then? Mr. Ju, do you think I care about your marital status? I stood up, slowly straightening my cuffs. Whether it's a fake marriage or a real marriage certificate, that's your private affair. Right now, in my eyes, you're just a poorly managed acquisition target, even suspected of fraud. Tingwen, that child, if he were still here, he'd be almost 3 years old. His voice trembled as he mentioned the forbidden topic. My heart tightened slightly, followed by an overwhelming chill. That child died on that rainy night 3 years ago. It was you who handed me the knife. Ju Shushan. I walked up to him, lowering my voice, each word like a nail. Don't act all sentimental in front of me, it makes me sick. I led my team away with a confident stride, leaving Ju Shushan slumped back into his wheelchair. Just as I stepped out of the building, I received a call from an unknown number. Shen Tingwen, how dare you come back? The voice on the other end was Lin Jiao's. Nearly hysterical, a faint smile curled at the corner of my lips. Perfect, all the prey had gathered. Lin Jiao, I heard you haven't been doing well these past 3 years. The title of Mrs. Ju isn't easy to bear, is it? Don't you dare gloat. Shushan is mine, and the Ju family is mine too. There's a charity gala for socialites tonight. If you have the guts, come over. I'll show you who the real mistress of this place is. I hung up the phone, a flicker of amusement in my eyes. Shen Man, help me book the most expensive gown. Tonight, we're going to collect a debt. The charity gala in Haicheng was a gathering of celebrities, where the glamour of the high society was magnified to the Extreme under the crystal chandeliers, I changed into a deep V-back, dark green silk gown, its hem swaying with each step, reminiscent of a dangerous yet enchanting poison in the dead of night. When I pushed open the heavy mahogany doors of the banquet hall, the once noisy venue fell into a momentary silence. The socialites and ladies who had mocked me as the discarded wife 3 years ago were now staring at me with incredulous eyes. Is that Shen Tingwen? How dare she come back? What Shen Tingwen? She's now Wall Street's Eve, and the fate of the Zhu family is entirely in her hands. Whispers of discussion surged like a tide. Without glancing sideways, I walked straight toward the champagne tower at the center of the venue. Tingwen, long time no see, you still love to steal the spotlight as much as ever. Lin Jiao's voice came from the side, carrying a hint of sharpness she couldn't quite conceal. She wore a pink and white haute couture gown, with layers of lace attempting to create an illusion of purity and flawlessness. Yet, in the face of my sharp, deep green dress, it looked petty and cheap. Clinging to Zhu Shushan, whose expression was dark and gloomy, she seemed to be declaring her territory, the veins on the back of her hand faintly visible. Miss Lin, you had this taste 3 years ago, and you haven't improved a bit since then. I swirled the wine glass in my hand, my tone lazy. Wearing a knockoff that's been out of season for 2 years, does it make the Zhu family look like they've gone bankrupt? Lin Jiao's face flushed instantly. She instinctively glanced at Zhu Shushan, only to find his gaze fixed on my retreating figure, completely oblivious to what she was saying. You're talking nonsense. This was custom-made for me by Shushan. Lin Jiao gritted her teeth, suddenly raising her voice. Shen Tingwen, don't think that just because you've come back wrapped in a foreign veneer, you can wash away the scandal from back then. 3 years ago, you faked a pregnancy to force a marriage with Shushan. And when it didn't work, you caused a citywide uproar. Now you're back to stir up trouble again. The people around them pricked up their ears. Fake pregnancy. I chuckled softly, set down my wine glass, and approached her with graceful steps. Lin Jiao was so overwhelmed by the oppressive aura emanating from me that she took a step back, bumping into Zhu Shushan. Lin Jiao, since you brought up 3 years ago, let's settle the score publicly. I took out a neatly folded photocopy of a document from my handbag and unfolded it in front of everyone. This is the compensation agreement personally signed by President Zhu 3 years ago. It clearly states that as long as I leave, the Zhu family will allocate 3 billion in assets as a title transfer fee. Miss Lin, so in your eyes, the title of Mrs. Zhu is worth 3 billion. I held up the agreement for the surrounding media cameras, and a wave of gasps erupted from the crowd. So it was a bought title, 300 million. President Zhu is truly generous. Shen Tingwen, shut your mouth. Lin Jiao lunged forward like a madwoman, trying to snatch the documents. I sidestepped to avoid her, then grabbed her wrist with a firm grip. Leaning close to her ear, I whispered coldly, in a voice only the 3 of us could hear, the best part is yet to come. Lin Jiao, I also have the recording of you bribing the maternity ward nurse to alter my examination report, leading Zhu Shushan to believe I wasn't pregnant. Guess what? If Zhu Shushan finds out that the child was actually put at risk because of your little scheme, do you think he'll still protect you? Lin Jiao's pupils contracted violently, her face as pale as paper. Zhu Shushan abruptly grabbed my shoulder, his voice dangerously low. Tingwen, what did you say? What recording? What did Lin Jiao tamper with? I shook off his hand in disgust and raised my voice to address the entire room. Today, I am not only returning as Eve, but also representing the Hope Women's Entrepreneurship Fund to announce the official blacklisting of all fashion brands under Lin Jiao's name, and, due to Lin's involvement in serious ethical misconduct and commercial fraud, I suggest that all partners present here reassess Zhu Corporation's credibility. On what grounds are you blacklisting me? Lin Jiao shrieked. Who do you think you are? At that moment, the crowd automatically parted to make way. Anna, the editor-in-chief of an internationally top-tier fashion magazine, known as the Fashion Devil, walked over. She affectionately looped her arm through mine and cast a cold glance at Lin Jiao. Because she is my closest friend, and because she is the largest individual shareholder of the world's top luxury group, Miss Lin, starting tomorrow, you won't see your name in any fashion show, nor will any brand dare to lend you clothes. You have been blacklisted from the fashion world. Lin Jiao staggered, grabbing Zhu Shushan as if pleading for help. Shushan, help me. She's targeting the Zhu family. But Zhu Shushan seemed to have lost his soul. He stared intently at Lin Jiao, then turned to look at me, his voice trembling uncontrollably. Tingwen, what you just said about the child, is it true, Mr. Zhu? Isn't it a bit too late to ask these questions now? I looked at his devastated expression, feeling no sense of satisfaction, only indifference. The child died 3 years ago. He died in your arrogance and in her schemes. You two, the perfect couple, can slowly savor this blood-stained status. I turned and walked away, leaving behind Lin Jiao's hysterical cries and Zhu Shushan's desperate roars. Stepping out of the banquet hall, the cold wind outside cleared my thoughts. Eve, Zhu Corporation's stock price has already started to crash, my assistant, Shun Man, reported as she approached. I gazed at the star-filled sky, took a deep breath, and said, "It's not enough. I want him to watch with his own eyes as the business empire he cares about most crumbles bit by bit beneath my feet. As for Lin Jiao, I'll make her understand what it truly means to have nothing at all. Look into Zhu's overseas project called Moonlight. I want it to make headlines next week. Once the wheel of revenge is set in motion, there is no stopping it. Zhu Shushan. This is just the first appetizer on the top floor of the private financial club. Beyond the floor-to-ceiling windows lay the most bustling river view of Haicheng, with neon lights flickering like an endless feast of vanity. I swirled the Romani Conti in my glass, sitting across from Zhao Ting, the CEO of Wanhe Capital, the biggest rival of the Zhu Group. Eve, that move of pulling the firewood from under the cauldron was brilliantly executed. Zhao Ting raised his glass, smiling meaningfully. Zhu's overseas Moonlight project was originally his last trump card to turn things around, but you turned around and reported it for suspected false capital injection and money laundering. Now, global regulators are watching him closely. Zhu Shushan's cash flow is broken. The business world is like a battlefield. Mr. Zhu once taught me that kindness has no place in commanding troops. I took a light sip of red wine, my expression calm. 3 years ago, Zhu Shushan looked down on me with that condescending attitude, thinking that giving me money was the greatest favor. Now, I've made sure he doesn't even have the chance to cash in on that money. At that moment, the heavy wooden door of the club was pushed open, and a waiter followed behind a man with a troubled expression. It was Zhu Shushan. He wasn't in a wheelchair but was leaning on a black sandalwood cane. With every step, his right leg seemed to ache faintly. His signature suit hung loosely on him, and his once coldly handsome face was now pale, almost translucent. Only his eyes remained fixed on me, filled with a desperate, stubborn intensity. Mr. Zhao, I hope you don't mind if I speak. With Eve alone, Zhu Shushan's voice was hoarse, carrying the undeniable authority of someone in a position of power. Zhao Ting glanced at me, and I gave a slight nod. Zhao Ting tactfully stood up, patting Zhu Shushan on the shoulder before leaving, his tone mocking. President Zhu, if it's about the funding chain, begging Eve would be faster. Only a deathly silence remained in the room. Zhu Shushan walked up to me, his cane making a dull thud against the floor. Instead of sitting down, he looked down at me from above, his originally icy voice now tinged with a hint of humble pleading. Tingwen, must you go to such extremes? President Zhu, I don't understand what you mean. I set down my wine glass, elegantly crossing my legs. As an investor, the Zhu Group's project carries risks. Withdrawing my investment and reporting it is standard procedure. Within the legal framework, what have I done wrong? You know perfectly well what the Moonlight project means to me. He suddenly braced himself on the table, his body trembling slightly from the force. That's the core of Zhu Corporation for the next 5 years. If you cut it off, Zhu Corporation will face bankruptcy and restructuring. So what? I raised my eyes, meeting his gaze without a trace of fear. 3 years ago, I begged you to. I begged you not to register a marriage with someone else before our wedding. I begged you to think about the child that hadn't even fully formed yet. What did you say back then? I paused, repeating his exact words from that year. Tingwen, you need to be more understanding. I can give you everything except a title. Zhu Shushan's face instantly turned deathly pale, as if he had been slapped hard across the face. Now, I pass these words on to you. I stood up, smoothing the wrinkles on my skirt. Aside from control of the Zhu Group, I can consider any compensation you want. Money, a house, or that white moonlight you've been longing for. Just name it. And I, Eve, can afford the price. Shen Tingwen, he let go of his hand in despair, his cane clattering to the floor. He looked like a ruin that had lost all support, his voice trembling. Do you really not love me at all anymore? Love? I laughed as if I'd heard the biggest joke. Jushushan. That cheap thing was already crushed under your own feet 3 years ago at the entrance of that operating room. Just as I was about to leave, his phone suddenly started ringing frantically. It was a call from the Ju family's old mansion. Even without putting it on speakerphone, I could hear Lin Jiao's hysterical cries from the other end of the line. Shushan, save me. The creditors have blocked the door. My mother-in-law wants to kick me out. She says I'm a jinx to my husband, that I'm a fraud. Shushan, come back quickly. Ju Shushan didn't even glance at his phone, directly hanging up the call. She's no longer important. He looked at me, his eyes bloodshot. Tingwen, as long as you're willing to come back, I can give you Ju Corporation. Even my life. Your life isn't worth much, but Ju Corporation's shares are. As I brushed past him, I didn't even spare him a glance. By the way, a reminder for President Ju, I'll be attending the creditors' meeting next week. I hope you can hold on to your last shred of dignity by then. Stepping out of the club, the late-night river wind swept past. I received a text message from a private detective, Ms. Shen. The transfer records of Lin Jiao bribing the doctor back then have been restored. Additionally, there are new leads regarding the truth about Ju Shushan's car accident from that year. I gripped my phone tightly and let out a cold laugh. Ju Shushan, do you think your sins are just that one piece of evidence? The dirty truths hidden beneath the facade of deep affection, I want you to peel them back. One by one, with your own hands. In the conference room of the law firm, cold white light shone on the dark-toned marble table, exuding an air of solemnity. Before me lay several yellowed medical reports and a few encrypted drives. Ace lawyer Fang Rui adjusted his gold-rimmed glasses, his expression grave. Miss Shen, according to the latest evidence we've obtained, 3 years ago, Lin Jiao not only took credit for saving your life, but she even deliberately intercepted your prenatal checkup confirmation while Ju Shushan was hospitalized after the car accident. I gently rubbed the cool surface of the cup with my fingertips. It turns out that the so-called white moonlight was nothing but a meticulously planned scam from start to finish. Back then, when Ju Shushan was in the early stages of starting his business, he was involved in a serious car accident and fell into a coma. It was me who stayed by his bedside day and night for 3 days and nights, and even sold the only old house my grandfather left me to raise funds for his subsequent research and development. But when he woke up, Lin Jiao, holding the silk scarf I had left there, became the lifesaver in his eyes. As for me, due to extreme exhaustion at the time and pressure from the Shen family's interests, I was forcibly taken back to my hometown by Shen's mother to recuperate. By the time I returned, everything had changed, and this, Fang Rui clicked on the screen, revealing a dusty surveillance video. Though blurry, it clearly showed Lin Jiao adding something to Ju Shushan's medication. This is a hallucinogenic drug. Long-term use can make a person emotionally indifferent and impair their judgment. That's why Ju Shushan showed such cruel indifference toward you during that period. I stared at the screen, but instead of the anticipated grief, a sense of absurd desolation rose within me. Ju Shushan, you pride yourself on strategizing and planning, yet you've been manipulated by a woman full of schemes. Your aloofness, your decisiveness, half of it turns out to be an illusion built on chemical drugs. Miss Shen, this evidence is sufficient to sue Lin Jiao for commercial fraud and intentional harm. Fang Rui lowered his voice. Additionally, regarding the prenuptial agreement from the Ju group back then, since it involves fraud and concealment, we can apply to revoke all the involuntary transfers you made at that time. In other words, the ownership of those core laboratories under the Ju group has actually always been in your name. No rush. I curled the corner of my lips, my gaze icy. I want to tear off Lin Jiao's facade right in front of Ju Shushan. During the court hearing, 3 days later, Haicheng Primary People's Court, a closed-door hearing. When Ju Shushan pushed the door open, his entire being exuded a sickly, ashen pallor. His usually meticulously styled hair was now slightly disheveled, and the sound of his cane tapping the floor had become hurried and heavy. Lin Jiao followed behind him, her eyes swollen from crying, looking as if she had suffered endless grievances. Shushan, Shen Tingwen is trying to drive us to our deaths. She actually sued me for fraud, when I love you so much. Lin Jiao tugged at Zhu Shushan's sleeve, her voice sickeningly sweet and coquettish. Zhu Shushan didn't speak, just stared fixedly at me sitting in the plaintiff's seat. I changed into a pure white professional suit, clean and sharp like a cold sword drawn from its sheath. Let's begin, I signaled to Fang Rui. As the transfer documents and recordings were publicly played in court, Lin Jiao's sobbing abruptly stopped. Miss Lin Jiao, please explain why you appeared at Dr. Zhu's private office 3 years ago and paid a cash sum of 500,000 yuan. Fang Rui's voice sounded like a judgment. That is, Lin Jiao stammered, her face instantly turning deathly pale. Is it because you wanted to buy out all the records of my pregnancy and have the doctor tell Zhu Shushan that I forged the prenatal checkup reports to force him into marriage? I stood up, staring at her across the long table. You even bribed the servants at the old mansion to put drugs in the tonic I brewed for Zhu Shushan. Lin Jiao, is your so-called love about turning him into an emotionless puppet? Zhu Shushan's body trembled violently. He abruptly turned to look at Lin Jiao, the last trace of defense in his eyes instantly crumbling, replaced by a kind of terror and disgust he had never felt before. Is what she said true? Zhu Shushan's voice seemed to be squeezed out from the depths of his throat, each word carrying a bloody edge. Shushan, listen to me. I did it all to stay by your side. I love you too much. Get out. Zhu Shushan violently pushed her hand away, the force so great that Lin Jiao crashed directly into the railing of the hearing gallery. He stumbled toward me, trying to reach out and touch my fingertips, but I recoiled in disgust. Tingwen, I'm sorry about that child. He collapsed to his knees beside the seat. This once arrogant and domineering CEO now wept in the courtroom like a broken man who had lost his soul. I destroyed our family with my own hands. It was me, Mr. Zhu. Stop pretending. I looked down at him coldly. The truth came to light so I could reclaim what belongs to me, not to listen to your confessions. The law will give Lin Jiao the punishment she deserves. And as for you, Zhu Shushan, your punishment has only just begun. I threw an asset preservation application in front of him. Due to your involvement in multiple false statements as the legal representative of Zhu Corporation, the court has officially sealed the company's research and development center. As for you now, even this suit you're wearing will likely have to be mortgaged. When Lin Jiao was taken away by the bailiffs for investigation, she was still screaming hysterically. Zhu Shushan sat dazed on the cold floor, watching my retreating figure. I stepped out of the courthouse building and took a deep breath of fresh air. I once believed that the truth could redeem me, but now I realize that the truth is merely a brick that completely shatters the past. I don't just want him to regret it, I want him to watch himself fall into the abyss. Fully conscious of his remorse, the Zhu family's old mansion, once a symbol of power and glory, now appeared weary and lifeless in the desolate late autumn. On the 7th day after Lin Jiao was taken away for investigation, the media in Haicheng had already torn this sensational family drama to shreds. Zhu Corporation's stock price had hit the limit down, with hundreds of thousands of sell orders piling up like an iceberg on the verge of collapse. When I pushed open the main door, the air was thick with the pungent smell of tobacco and the stale odor of alcohol. Zhu Shushan was curled up in the dark leather sofa, with several empty liquor bottles scattered haphazardly at his feet. His eyes, usually as clear and cold as winter stars, were now clouded and bloodshot, crisscrossed with a web of red veins. At the sound of the door opening, he abruptly lifted his head, and the moment he saw me, a nearly frantic brightness erupted in his gaze. Tingwen, you've come back. I knew you couldn't let go of this place. He struggled to stand up but fell back onto the sofa due to the excruciating pain in his right leg, his hand sweeping the ashtray off the coffee table. The sharp sound of shattering glass echoed through the empty living room. I stood at the boundary between light and shadow, looking down at him with a gaze as cold as if I was staring at a pile of non-recyclable trash. I came to take the last thing. I pulled a document from my bag. This is the auction confirmation for this villa, Zhu Shushan. All the real estate under your name has been forcibly executed by the court. By 2 o'clock tomorrow afternoon, this place will no longer bear the Zhu name. Zhu Shushan's smile froze on his face. With trembling hands, he took the document, his fingertips brushing over the cold official seal. Are you taking even this place away? His voice was hoarse and strained. This house holds 7 years of our memories. In the study, There's still the wallpaper you pasted with your own hands back then. In the backyard, there are the white camellias you planted. Shen Tingwen, can you really be so heartless as to erase everything? Memories. I let out a light laugh. Slowly walking into the living room and casually brushing aside a dusty group photo, those so-called sweet memories were cremated by your own hands 3 years ago, right outside the operating room, Ju Shushan. Don't talk to me about heartlessness. Compared to the humiliation you gave me the day you announced your marriage certificate, this is just interest. Suddenly, as if remembering something, he rushed frantically to the safe. With trembling fingers, he unlocked the door, pulled out an old small box from inside. Look, I've kept it all this time. He opened the box to reveal a simple pair of matching rings, the ones he bought me with his first pot of gold from his entrepreneurial venture in the first year. Back then, he held me and said that in this lifetime, he would only ever have me, Shen Tingwen, as his Mrs. Ju Tingwen. I've driven Lin Jiao away. I burned all her belongings. I looked into it, the induced labor procedure back then. Dr. Lin said you were extremely weak at the time. I am guilty. I deserve to die. As long as you give me a chance to make it up to you, even if it means I have to go to prison, just say the word. He knelt on the woolen carpet, humbly clutching the hem of my skirt, his eyes bloodshot as he pleaded with me. In that state, where was the shadow of the business tycoon of Hai Cheng? Make it up to me. I bent down, pinched his chin, and forced him to meet my gaze. All right then, tell me, how do you plan to make up for that unborn child? Will you bring him back to life? Or will you go through the despair of feeling those cold surgical instruments inside your own body? Ju Shushan's body convulsed violently, his lips trembling so much he couldn't utter a single word. You can't give it to me. I shook him off, using a wet wipe to clean each finger that had touched him one by one. And Ju Shushan, the one sentence you're begging me for, I can give it to you right now. He looked up at me with hopeful eyes. That is, please, stay far away from my sight. Seeing you in this state, like a stray dog, I find it utterly uninteresting. I turned to leave, but Mrs. Ju suddenly rushed out from some corner. She had long lost the restraint of a wealthy socialite, her hair disheveled and her face filled with worry. Tingwen, please help Shushan. She blocked my way desperately. It was my fault before. I was old and confused, blinded by that vixen Lin Jiao. As long as you're willing to inject funds to save Ju Corporation, I'll make Shushan kneel and kowtow to apologize right away. I'll also talk to the Shen family. We're still a family. Mrs. Ju, please show some self-respect. I pushed her hand away, my gaze sharp. The Shen family had nothing to do with me 3 years ago when they sold me off to secure funding for Ju Corporation. As for saving Ju Corporation, I'm sorry, but the reason I came back this time was to personally bury it. As I walked out of the Ju family's gate, a light drizzle began to fall from the sky. Ju Shushan actually chased after me without an umbrella. He limped toward my car and, before the bodyguards could stop him, he desperately clung to the car window. Rainwater slid down his pale cheeks into his neck, making him look utterly wretched. Tingwen, tell me, that day at the hospital, did you ever, even for a second, think of forgiving me? I rolled down the car window and calmly looked at his rain-soaked eyes and brows. No, from the moment you took Lin Jiao's hand, you were already dead in my eyes. The car started, and in the rearview mirror, Ju Shushan's slender figure gradually blurred in the curtain of rain, eventually turning into a black dot that night. The news that Ju Shushan had completely lost his mind spread throughout the circle. It was said that he sat in the villa, which was about to be sealed, all night long. After smashing every trace of Lin Jiao, he held on to that old pair of matching rings and sat in the rain until dawn. As for me, I was sitting in the top floor office of my new company, looking at the Ju Group acquisition plan on the desk, and revealing a confident, determined smile. The grand hall of the Ju Group was devoid of its usual brilliant lights today, replaced instead by an almost solemn and severe atmosphere. This was the most turbulent day since the founding of Ju Corporation, the extraordinary general meeting. The hall was packed with shareholders with grim faces and sharp-nosed financial journalists. Long and short lenses were mounted like cannons, all aimed at the empty seat at the head of the podium. When Ju Shushan entered the venue, the previously noisy hall instantly fell silent. He leaned on a cane, each step taken with extreme slowness yet remarkable steadiness. He had changed into a sharply tailored black suit and tidied his disheveled hair, trying to reclaim the dignified composure of the once aloof and domineering CEO, yet his sunken eye sockets and the lingering ashen look in his eyes ultimately betrayed the desolation within him. Mr. Jew, according to the latest shareholding changes, the shares you pledged have hit the liquidation threshold, and you failed to replenish the margin on time. Your current voting rights are now less than 30%. A minor shareholder was the first to challenge him, his tone cutting. It seems today's meeting will have to be chaired by someone else. Zhu Shushan's knuckles turned white as he gripped his cane. He scanned the room, his voice hoarse yet still carrying a lingering authority. As long as I haven't signed my resignation, Zhu Corporation still belongs to the Zhu family. Does anyone have any objections? I have an objection. I pushed open the heavy solid wood door, the sound of my high heels striking the marble floor echoing like a precise countdown. I wore a fiery red tailored suit dress, its bold color standing out starkly against the sea of dark gray suits. Behind me followed a uniform lineup of top-tier lawyers and financial experts, their presence commanding the room. Zhu Shushan's breath hitched the moment he saw me. I walked straight to the podium, stood before him, and across that expensive mahogany table, I flung a shareholding penetration report in front of him. Mr. Jew, allow me to introduce myself. I am Eve, a partner at Vision Capital. Additionally, through secondary market purchases and premium buybacks from the Zhao Group, I now legally hold 51% of the shares in Zhu Group. The entire room erupted in an uproar, with camera flashes going off like crazy. 51%, isn't that absolute control? Shen Tingwen has swallowed the entire Zhu Corporation. Zhu Shushan stared blankly at the report, then looked at me, a self-mocking smile curling at the corner of his mouth, his eyes filled with shattered sorrow. So, you not only wanted to ruin me, but also take away my last bit of hope. Tingwen, for the past 3 years, every step you took was calculated, wasn't it? Zhu Shushan, this isn't called calculation, it's called reclaiming lost territory. I pulled out the chair at the head of the table, sat down gracefully, and motioned for him to step aside. 3 years ago, half of Zhu Corporation's initial capital and core patents were brought in by me, Shen Tingwen. Back then, you used my hard work to support your white moonlight. Now, I'm just taking back what belongs to me. As for you, I took a resignation agreement from my assistant, lightly tapping it with my fingertips. Sign it. From now on, the Zhu Group will officially be renamed Evening Star International. You are fired. Zhu Shushan stared at the resignation agreement, his pen trembling above it for a long time. Sign it, and you'll be completely free. I leaned in close to him, speaking coldly in a voice only the two of us could hear. From now on, you are no longer the high and mighty Mr. Zhu. You are just a disabled man burdened with massive debt and a ruined reputation because of Lin Jiao's fraud case. Zhu Shushan, how does that feel? His tears fell silently onto the paper, smudging a small patch of ink. In the end, he still signed. The moment he stood up to leave, I turned around and announced to the shareholders below, who wore varied expressions, the first reform is to terminate all suppliers associated with the Lin family's enterprises. The second is to formally initiate civil compensation lawsuits against Lin Jiao and her accomplices. I want every single one of Zhu Corporation's past misdeeds to be settled, one by one. When the meeting ended, Zhu Shushan walked out of the auditorium, looking desolate. He stood at the base of the building, watching the workers holding scaffolding, preparing to dismantle the 4 massive bronze characters of the Zhu Group sign. He once thought he had control over everything, even believing that as long as he turned back, the gentle and considerate Shen Tingwen would always be waiting for him right where she was. But he forgot that a shattered heart, once melted, can turn into a blade of ice sharp enough to kill. Eve, Zhu Shushan has been standing downstairs for 3 hours. Shun Man whispered as she approached. I stood by the floor-to-ceiling window, looking down at the bustling traffic below, not even turning my head. Don't bother with him, an expired prey isn't worth wasting time on. I raised my glass of red wine, giving a faint toast to the lingering sunset outside the window. Zhu Shushan, just watch. Without you, my world is truly beginning to shine, and for the rest of your life, you will slowly grow old and decay in this confined space of regret. In the deep autumn night, a bone-chilling rain fell over Haicheng, I stood before the floor-to-ceiling panoramic window on the top floor of Evening Star International, holding a cup of warm black coffee. The city lights glittered beneath my feet, and the Jew empire that once oppressed and bound me was now being dismantled and rebuilt according to my will. Eve, Jew Shushan is still downstairs. Shen Man pushed the door open, her tone tinged with a hint of complexity. He's been standing in the rain for 5 hours now. The security guard says he looks like he's about to collapse. Should we call the police to clear the area? I took a sip of coffee, the bitterness spreading across my tongue, followed by a lingering clarity. No need, let him stand. What is always loved isn't the rain, but that self-indulgent, sentimental drama. I set down the cup, draped a beige cashmere coat over my shoulders, and stepped into the private elevator. When the elevator doors opened on the basement level, a cold wind swept in, carrying a rush of rain. Jew Shushan stood at the exit, umbrella-less, his once prized expensive suit soaked through and clinging tightly to his gaunt back, leaning on his sandalwood cane. His right leg trembled violently from the cold and damp, his whole body swaying unsteadily. Seeing me emerge, a final glimmer of light sparked in his dull eyes as he stumbled a step toward me. Tingwen, his voice was so hoarse it was almost unrecognizable, each word seeming to carry a bloody froth. I've waited for you for a long time. I just wanted to ask you one thing in person. I stopped walking, and the bodyguard behind me immediately stepped forward to block him. I looked at him with a calm expression, as if he were a complete stranger, a beggar. Jew Shushan, you look truly pathetic right now, I said calmly, my tone devoid of any fluctuation. If you have something to say it from there. Don't dirty my car. Jew Shushan froze in place, rainwater trickling down his pale cheeks and into his neck. He let out a self-mocking laugh, his eyes bloodshot, as large tears mixed with the rain and fell to the ground. Tingwen, those 7 years, did you ever, even a little bit, truly love me? He stared at me intently, his eyes filled with a self-destructive obsession. Or from the very beginning, were you just waiting for a chance to ruin me? Lin Jiao said you were after the Jew family's assets, that you were cunning and scheming. I didn't believe it, not a single word. But I beg you to tell me yourself, did you ever have any genuine feelings for me? Looking at him in this utterly humbled state, I felt not even a ripple of emotion in my heart. Genuine feelings. I slowly walked up to him, looking directly into those shattered eyes over the shoulder of a bodyguard. Jew Shushan, is your memory failing you? 3 years ago, when I begged you not to leave in my wedding dress, that was genuine. When I risked a stomach hemorrhage to help you drink and secure orders, that was genuine. When I was overjoyed, carrying that child, dreaming of giving you a home, that was the most fervent sincerity of my life. Shen Tingwen, Jew Shushan's breath hitched abruptly, his body trembling violently. But didn't you feed that sincerity to the dogs with your own hands? I leaned in close to him, my voice as light as a breeze yet each word sharp as a blade. When you announced your marriage to give Lin Jiao a proper status, did you ever think of my sincerity? When you let her humiliate me, even suspecting I was faking a pregnancy, did you ever think of my sincerity? Now that you have nothing left, you come running to ask if I ever loved you. I let out a cold laugh, my gaze growing sharp and icy. I did, but the Shen Tingwen who loved you died 3 years ago at the door of the maternity ward. The me now sees you no differently than the trash on the side of the road. Do you understand? No, it's not like this. Jew Shushan suddenly dropped his cane, his knees hitting the cold, hard cement with a heavy thud. He reached out to grab the hem of my skirt, only to be coldly blocked by a bodyguard. Tingwen, I was wrong. I was truly insane. What if I give that status back to you? What if I pay you back with my life? Please, Don Titi, look at me with those eyes. Just then, a black Maybach pulled up steadily beside me. The window rolled down, revealing a man with an elegant demeanor and deep, thoughtful eyes. Pei Jing, a top-tier chip supplier and rising star in the business world, who had been working closely with me recently. Eve, we're going to be late for the celebration banquet. Shall we go? Pei Jing smiled gently, his gaze not lingering on the kneeling Jew Shushan for even half a second. Let's go. I turned around and gracefully settled into the car. Shen Tingwen, Jew Shushan let out a roar like a trapped beast behind me. He tried to stand up but fell back into the muddy water due to his disabled right leg. You can't leave. Look back at me. The car window slowly rose, shutting out all the noise and pleas. Paging glanced at me sideways and handed me a clean handkerchief. Aren't you going to look back? He looks like he's about to lose his mind. What if he does? I took the handkerchief and gently wiped away a drop of rainwater that had accidentally splashed into the gap of my fingernail. The cheapest thing in this world is belated affection, Mr. Pay. Compared to ruins, I prefer to watch the stars that are about to rise. The car started and sped away, leaving a trail of dust behind. In the rearview mirror, Ju Shushan sat slumped in the heavy rain, like an abandoned child forsaken by the world. He was once the coldest and proudest king of Haicheng, but now, he is nothing more than a speck of dust on my path to the summit. My world is already vast enough, vast as the stars and the sea, and can no longer hold any words about him. The spring in Haicheng carries a clarity that washes away all pretenses. Today marks the 3rd anniversary celebration of the Hope Women's Entrepreneurship Fund under the Evening Star International Group, and it is also the day I have reached the top of the Global Business Influence Rankings. The award ceremony was held at the Haicheng Opera House, the very place where Ju Shushan proposed to me. Now, it is adorned with the medals of honor that belong to me. I wore a champagne-colored off-the-shoulder haute couture gown, with my long hair elegantly swept up, revealing the red diamond necklace named Reignite around my slender swan-like neck. When the host announced my name, the entire audience rose to their feet, and thunderous applause nearly lifted the dome. Thank you for the cracks that once existed, for that is where the light enters. I stood before the microphone, speaking with composure, my gaze sweeping over the countless young and vibrant female faces in the audience. Someone once told me that status and money were all he could give me, but today, I want to tell every one of you here, status is a shackle bestowed by others, while self-awakening is the eternal crown. Applause thundered once again. Amidst countless camera flashes, I spotted a frail, hunched figure sitting in the corner. It was Mrs. Ju. She wore a faded old cheongsam, her eyes clouded and humble, with no bodyguards or clusters of noble women by her side. I heard that after the Ju family went bankrupt, she returned to the countryside to evade debt. Now, to raise medical expenses for Ju Shushan, who is still in a rehabilitation center, she has been met with rejection everywhere. She looked at me, radiant on the stage, wanting to step forward but shrinking back and lowering her head. In the end, at the security guard's signal, she quietly slipped out of the venue. After the ceremony, I drove to a private island for a vacation. As the car passed by the most exclusive private psychiatric sanatorium in Haicheng, I inexplicably asked the driver to stop for a moment. Through the neatly trimmed garden fence, I saw Ju Shushan. He was sitting in a wheelchair, his right leg curled up, with a thin blanket draped over him. He was staring blankly at a withered white camellia tree. Clutching 2 silver rings that had long since lost their luster from wear, due to prolonged alcoholism and mental torment, his once handsome face had become gaunt and emaciated. Only his eyes, upon hearing the sound of the car engine, would suddenly ignite with an almost morbid hope. But he didn't see me. I rolled down half the window and watched him. Mr. Ju, it's time for your medicine. The nurse walked over, her tone indifferent. Stop looking outside. Miss Shen left Haicheng long ago. She's the queen of the world now. How could she possibly come to see a madman like you? She'll come back. She promised to marry me. Tomorrow's wedding, white camellias, they have to be fresh, he muttered to himself, his voice like a piece of dry wood snapped underfoot, hollow and chilling. He's gone mad. He has lucidly trapped himself in that afternoon 3 years ago, just before we got our marriage certificate, trapped in that delusion where he thought he had everything under control but ended up pushing the whole world away with his own hands. I looked at him, my heart as calm as a stagnant pond. There was no wild joy of revenge, nor the relief of having survived a disaster, only a sense of dull indifference toward an unfamiliar, long-past event. Let's drive, I said quietly. The car window slowly rose, completely shutting that broken man out of my life. 2 hours later, on a private island, the sunset dyed the sea a magnificent orange-red. I walked barefoot on the soft sand, feeling the cool waves lapping at my ankles. Pei Jing stood on the terrace not far away, holding 2 glasses of sparkling wine, and raised his glass to me in a toast. He didn't come over to break the tranquility, because he knew that right now, what I enjoyed most was this ultimate freedom. I gaze into the distance. Lin Jiao was sentenced to 15 years for multiple counts of fraud and assault. and in prison, her face was completely disfigured due to a mental breakdown. The Shen family, those bloodsuckers, having lost the protection of the Zhu family, are now struggling on the brink of bankruptcy, blaming each other, and I, Shen Tingwen, have finally built a business empire in this world with my own hands, one that doesn't need any man's favor. I take out the old card that has been with me for 3 years from my pocket, the last copy of the ultrasound I secretly kept back at the door of the abortion clinic. Looking at the tiny dot on it, I gently kiss it, then toss it into the churning waves of the sea. Baby, look, Mommy has become the person you'd be most proud of. That piece of paper quickly vanished into the deep blue sea. I turned around and strode toward the terrace, facing the glow of the setting sun. The wind lifted the hem of my skirt, like a phoenix about to take flight. Jushushan. There has never been such a thing as I can give you everything except a marriage certificate in this world. The moment you decide to let go, you have already lost everything, and I, with my boundless radiance, will forever rush toward the next mountain and sea. End of text. Word count, 2588. I have confirmed that the content of the later chapters in the outline does not jump ahead. Well answered, poorly answered, copy, show more options, copy prompt, modify. You said, continue, listen to the answer. L. Love Story Lane, Custom Gem, Love Story Lane, Section 10. The spring in Haicheng carries a clarity that washes away all pretenses. Today marks the 3rd anniversary celebration of the Hope Women's Entrepreneurship Fund under the Evening Star International Group, and it is also the day I have ascended to the top of the global business influence rankings. The award ceremony was held at the Haicheng Opera House, the very place where Zhu Shushan proposed to me. Now, it is adorned with the medals of honor that belong to me. I wore a champagne-colored off-the-shoulder haute couture gown, my long hair swept up to reveal the slender swan-like neck adorned with the red diamond necklace named Reignite. When the host announced my name, the entire audience rose to their feet, and thunderous applause nearly lifted the dome off the ceiling. Thank you for the cracks of the past, for that is where the light enters. I stood before the microphone, speaking with composure, my gaze sweeping over the countless young and vibrant female faces in the audience. Once, someone told me that status and money were all he could give me, but today, I want to tell every one of you here. Status is a shackle bestowed by others, while self-awakening is the eternal crown. Applause erupted once again like thunder. Amidst countless camera flashes, I spotted a frail and hunched figure sitting in the corner. It was Mrs. Zhu. She wore a faded old cheongsam, her eyes clouded and humble. With no bodyguards or clusters of noble women by her side, I heard that after the Zhu family went bankrupt, she returned to the countryside to evade debt. Now, in order to raise medical expenses for Zhu Shushan, who is still in a rehabilitation center. She has been met with rejection everywhere. She looked at me, radiant on the stage, wanting to approach but shrinking back in fear, eventually lowering her head. Finally, at the signal of the security guard, she quietly slipped out of the venue. After the ceremony, I drove to a private island for vacation. As the car passed by the most exclusive private mental sanatorium in Haicheng, I inexplicably asked the driver to stop for a moment. Through the neatly trimmed garden fence, I saw Zhu Shushan. He was sitting in a wheelchair, his right leg slightly deformed due to muscle atrophy, with a thin blanket draped over him. He was staring blankly at a withered white camellia tree, clutching 2 silver rings that had long lost their luster from wear. Years of heavy drinking and mental torment had left his once handsome face gaunt and emaciated, but his eyes would suddenly light up with an almost morbid hope at the sound of a car engine. But he didn't see me. Mr. Zhu, it's time for your medicine. The nurse walked over, her tone indifferent. Stop looking outside. Miss Shen left Haicheng long ago. She's now the queen of the world. How could she possibly come to see a madman like you? She'll come back. She promised to marry me. Tomorrow's wedding, white camellias, they have to be fresh, he muttered to himself. His voice like a piece of dry wood snapped underfoot, hollow and unsettling. He had gone mad. He had lucidly trapped himself in that afternoon 3 years ago, just before they were to register their marriage, trapped in the delusion where he thought he had everything under control, yet had pushed away the entire world with his own hands. I rolled down half the car window and looked at him. My heart was as calm as a stagnant pond, devoid of the wild joy of revenge or the relief of having survived a disaster. There was only a sense of dull indifference, as if facing some unfamiliar, long-forgotten affair. "Let's drive," I said calmly. The car window slowly rose, completely shutting that broken man out of my life. 2 hours later, on a private island, the sunset dyed the horizon a magnificent orange-red. I walked barefoot on the soft sand, feeling the cool waves lapping at my ankles. Pei stood on the terrace not far away, holding 2 glasses of sparkling wine, and raised his glass to me in a toast. He didn't come over to break the tranquility, because he knew that right now, what I enjoyed most was this ultimate freedom. Lin Jiao was sentenced to 15 years for multiple counts of fraud and intentional injury, and in prison, her face was completely disfigured due to a mental breakdown. The Shen family, those bloodsuckers, having lost the protection of the Zhu family, are now struggling on the brink of bankruptcy, blaming each other, and I, Shen Tingwen, have finally built a business empire in this world with my own hands, one that doesn't rely on any man's favor. I took out the old card I've carried with me for 3 years from my pocket, the last copy of the ultrasound I secretly kept back at the door of the abortion clinic. Looking at the tiny speck of light on it, I gently kissed it and then tossed it into the churning waves. "Baby, look, Mommy has become the person you'd be most proud of." That piece of paper quickly vanished into the azure sea. I turned around and strode toward the terrace, facing the glow of the setting sun. The wind lifted the hem of my skirt, like a phoenix about to spread its wings. Zhu Shushan. The moment you decided to treat emotions as bargaining chips, you had already lost everything. As for me, I will carry my boundless radiance and forever journey toward the next mountain and sea.